How's it going, everyone? I am ND Sean 45.
I'm Irish Benjamin 57.
And together we make up this little shindig called the Two Irish Brothers Show. First off, Ben, it is great to have you back, my friend. Nothing against George, but hey, you're the originator of this, my friend, and it's great to have you back.
Glad to be back.
Well, that's unfortunately what a bout with COVID and an injury on my part that'll shut down production for a little bit. But hey, it is what it is. Couple quick things before we get going with this episode. First off, a big shout out to a gentleman by the name of Anthony Lusardi. He is the man responsible for that rock version of the Notre Dame fight song that you guys just saw in our brand new intro. Freaking awesome. I loved it. Ben, your thoughts?
I dig it. I totally dig it. And I dig his sound. So
yeah, that guy can really shred it. And I can't thank him enough for letting me use that. When I found that, it sounded perfect. And also just to let everyone know, and we've been promoting this on the show for the last month and a half now, but just so it's set in stone, so everybody knows, the golf package that Irv Smith has been representing for Global Executive Tours, you guys can see it scrolling down at the bottom of the screen here. That does include airfare, but only if you're traveling out of Newark, New Jersey or New York City. But if you're out of those two cities, then you have to make the trip yourself. So just wanted to clear that up because I had been, I'd been promoting it wrong this whole time. So my bad, and my apologies to you, Ben, for making you look bad in the process.
No big deal.
All right. So getting right into conversation here. And even though we're a little late to the party doing a video on this, we both have still been following the news on this stuff pretty heavily because there seems to be a new story every day. But Ben, this conference realignment stuff is getting insane.
Yep, it is.
I mean, honestly, when we sat down to do this video, I didn't even know where to begin. And hold on, my cat has to get out. Go on, Garth. Attaboy. But yeah, I don't even know where to begin because there's a new story that comes out with this every day. It's like, this conference is going to be gone. That conference is going to be gone. These two conferences are going to be the only two conferences left in college football when it's all said and done. And Notre Dame's going to go to the Big Ten. Notre Dame's going to go to the ACC. Notre Dame's going to stay independent. I don't know what to believe at this point. I mean, what do you think is going to happen at this point?
I mean, I really don't know, to be very honest with you. What I think is the most logical thing is Notre Dame to join the Big Ten. I hate saying that. I've not been a big Big Ten fan. But, I mean, now that you have USC moving to the Big Ten, I mean, you almost have to. And the biggest thing that I think people need to realize with Notre Dame, because I don't care what anybody else does, and call me a hater, but I really don't. It has been discussed, playoff expansion. And part of the playoff expansion discussion is seeding for these other teams that will get in, and what to do with an independent team. And basically what has been said so far is that if a team that is independent, and let's be honest, the independent team would be Notre Dame. Okay, no offense to any of the other independents, but come on. The highest Notre Dame would get seed-wise would be a number 4 seed. So even if they were the number 1 team in the country at the time of seeding, they would get the number 4 seed. So I think all these things forces Notre Dame into a conference. Do I want that? Yes and no. Is it the worst thing in the world? Yes and no. But I mean, even Jack Swarbrick is saying, it's being discussed. So I think it's Big Ten. I think the ACC is going to be unfortunately kicked to the curb, and who knows?
Well, honestly, I'm not too sure about that. I don't know if the ACC will be the one that ends up getting kicked to the curb. Because, see, first off, here's my thoughts on us potentially joining the conference. And I'm pretty sure I've said this before in past videos when this stuff started to pick up. Now, granted, this is our first video of at least you and I, because I know George and I talked about this briefly in the video that we did in your absence. Now, with UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten, I think they're going to start in 2024, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So this is really our first video talking about this since those two schools made the jump and that the Big Ten officially became a coast-to-coast conference. But the way I see it is this, and I've said this before. I'm not exactly going to be out there with a protest sign saying, hey, I demand Notre Dame join a conference. No, I'm not. But if we end up joining a conference, whether it be the Big Ten or which honestly, I think the Big Ten, it's not looking like that's going to happen. But who knows? Who knows? And the way things are going right now, I don't know what to believe. I can only predict and give my thoughts at this time. But at the same time, I'm not going to be unhappy if we do end up joining a conference either, because, well, does it necessarily make our road to the playoffs easier? No. I mean, you still got to actually play all those games, and there's going to be a lot of tough competition in there. But if it takes a little bit of ease off, I'm fine with that. Now, the funny thing is, in my opinion, with all this conference realignment and whatnot, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of discussion. Who knows what's going to actually happen? But here's one key thing to look out for, Ben. ESPN and the ACC have started to renegotiate their contract and talk about the grant of rights with the ACC, which I'm sure you've heard about as well, is, as it stands right now, makes it very tough for a team to leave the ACC. Mm-hmm. I mean, now granted, when Maryland left the ACC back in 2012, I mean, it wasn't the same as it is now. I mean, back then it was only you only had to pay $50 million. I know, only $50 million, but just hear me out. There's more to this. $50 million to leave the ACC. But Maryland, through, with their lawyers and through the courts, they got it down to $32 million. Well, the way the grant of rights sits right now is if a team wants to leave the ACC, they have to surrender all their revenue for this year and multiply it by as many years what is left on the grant of rights contract. So we're talking 2036 here. And I read in an article that took Clemson, for example. So let's say Clemson wants to leave for the SEC, which there's been a lot of talk about that. As it stands right now, if Clemson wanted to do that, they would have to end up paying like over $450 million to leave the ACC.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know it sounded strange when I was talking about Maryland, but really, $32 million, $450 million. That's right. Quite a difference. Right. So yeah. I say that's a key, because if ESPN and the ACC are able to work out some kind of amazing deal that the ACC loves and that ESPN loves, and both parties are mutual in that, then that could entice a lot of the teams in the ACC to stay. And that could also entice Notre Dame to join as well, because I know the big rumors that have been going on for over a year now, and our colleague here on YouTube, Golden Blue Dude, has talked about this a lot, is that the ACC wants to bring in Notre Dame and West Virginia as a package. Now, who knows if that's actually going to happen? It's everything's only talk at this point. Right. But that could entice a move by ESPN and the ACC. That could entice a move like that to happen, and then all of a sudden the ACC becomes stronger, and in that case, that could lead to potentially the ACC going to pick off teams from the Big 12. So like, Cincinnati and Houston, they were on their way to the Big 12. Now the ACC doors open up for them and so on and so forth. I mean, you and I both know the Pac-12 is done.
It'll be interesting to see what the Pac-12 does moving forward, because yes, I mean, there's a lot of talk that other schools are discussing options with other conferences. So yes, but the thing with the ACC, and I would be more cool with the fact of Notre Dame joining the ACC. So let me start there.
I agree.
Is that Notre Dame is already in the ACC. Okay, we already have deals in place with the ACC. Okay, every sport except for two, the Notre Dame plays, is in the ACC. And one of the two is already kind of in the ACC because that's football, and they have that deal that they've worked out with the ACC where they play X amount of ACC teams and they get the benefits of playing those teams. So really, it would only be hockey, and that's a whole horse of a different color, So the transition, if Notre Dame were to become a full-fledged member in football, would be next to nothing in the ACC. Compared to the Big Ten, or even what's being thrown around currently, the most recent thing is the SEC has reached out to Notre Dame, and they're trying to make a push for Notre Dame.
I saw that article too. I'm pretty sure you and I read the same article, but I would not want that to happen.
My thing is, the ACC would have to grab 3 teams if they want to be even, because currently stands without Notre Dame in football, they have 15 teams in the conference. Okay, if you add Notre Dame, that's 16, and then if you were like Golden Blue dudes saying add West Virginia, that's 17. So it's going to get really, really interesting. And I mean, the ACC has quite a bit of Notre Dame's rivals in it. I mean, we have Georgia Tech, we have, Boston College, we have Miami, we have Florida,
Pittsburgh.
I mean, Florida State, not Florida. I'm so sorry.
I knew. I think everybody knew what you meant.
No, so yeah, I mean, and then of course now Clemson's kind of, that dark horse that we've seen in recent years, where it's a back and forth between Notre Dame and Clemson. So the other implication that I think a lot of people forget about with this whole conference realignment situation is other sports. Is the fact that, okay, the Pac-12 has now lost 2 basketball schools, because Southern Cal currently, USC, is actually really good in men's basketball right now. I mean, they have never been a very dominant program when it comes to men's basketball, but in the last about decade, they have come up from next to nothing and become a really good program. Obviously, UCLA is a blue blood when it comes to basketball. We forget about baseball.
Oh, all those California schools.
Amazing baseball school.
Yes.
I mean, and as a Notre Dame fan, it's hard to say that, but I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. So you're going to go from the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 has been fielding some good baseball programs as of late. I mean, Oregon State was in the College World Series this year. Wait.
You said Big 12 or Pac-12?
No, I'm saying College World Pac-12.
Okay, I thought you said Big 12. I'm like, wait a second, Oregon State's still in the Pac-12 for now.
Well, I mean, these moves have huge implications. Now, the Big Ten is not much of a baseball conference. I mean, you've got a lot of cold weather teams playing baseball, So that has implications. So it's not just, I mean, we focus on football, and the vast majority of people are focusing on football because I think the biggest implications are these teams moving around. You see Oklahoma and Texas move to the SEC. Well, I mean, you got two huge programs in football moving. Then you see Southern Cal moving. That's another big program moving. I mean, so yeah, I mean, we're focused on the football aspect, but there's a lot of pieces at play here. So my point is that if Notre Dame's going to make this move, A, it's going to be for the long haul, A, and B, this has to be very strategic because this is going to create not only mega conferences, but a rift in college football.
Oh, yes. We are seeing the ripple effect happen right before our eyes right now. The only difference is we just haven't seen it really take the full effect yet. I mean, yeah, believe it or not, USC and UCLA. Well, no, I'm sorry. Texas and Oklahoma, that wasn't even the biggest. That was just the start, believe it or not. Now we're starting to see it take effect with UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten, but we have yet to see all the mayhem unfold yet. That much I can tell you. But in the end, Ben, when it's all said and done, and this is just my opinion, and we know the old saying about opinions. Opinions are like buttholes. We all have one. And, well, this is one that I heard from a favorite wrestler of mine from back in the day, the Honky Tonk Man. He added this little twist onto it. But some opinions are full of more crap than a Thanksgiving turkey. and mine could end up being that. My opinion could just be nothing but a bunch of crap that doesn't happen at all. But here's what I predict is going to happen. It's the Big Ten Conference and the SEC Conference. They're safe. They are 100% safe. They have built their conferences up so strong. And yeah, what more do I need to say? Now, the Pac-12, and I know there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of talk about them potentially merging with another, with a group of 5 conference and so on. Who knows what's going to actually happen with that? But I think when it's all said and done, there's going to be 3 big conferences. And I think that third one is going to be the ACC. Because with this renegotiation that they're trying to work out with ESPN, and another key factor with that is Fox has not taken a bid on any college football. They did not take a bid on the Pac-12. I don't even think they took a bid on the Big 12. I could be wrong about that. But with Notre Dame in particular, with this negotiation, we become full members of the ACC. Well, all our away games would be covered by ESPN, but that would still allow NBC to come in and take all of our home games as they've been continuing, as they've been doing this whole time. So right. As fans, we would still be covered in being able to see the Irish play every week.
Right.
So yeah, the Irish wouldn't have to worry about necessarily losing that NBC deal, which I know has been dwarfed by, all these TV deals that these conferences are getting from their TV deals. I mean, hell, Northwestern made $100 million last year just off TV.
Right.
So, I mean, so that's how I see it happening, because if the ACC and ESPN make a deal and it's great, then that opens up the doors for them to pick apart either the Big 12 or what's left of the Pac-12, either or, and either the Big 10 or the SEC to do the same thing as well. So that's what I think is going to happen. The final 3, when it's all said and done, will be the SEC, the Big 10, and the ACC, with Notre Dame and possibly West Virginia.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other remaining schools from the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Now, will that happen? I don't know. So anybody who wants to get on my case, don't. This is just a prediction. It's an opinion. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen, okay? So any of you commenters, just save it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, and like you said, these are just opinions. I mean, we have no sway in anything. I mean, this is just us putting on an opinion. I have no idea what's going to happen. I am one of those people that I am in the wait and see approach. I don't think that it's a for sure thing that we're joining the ACC. I don't think it's a for sure thing that we're joining the Big Ten. I don't think it's a for sure thing that we're joining the SEC. It's a wait and see approach. Obviously, the facts are the facts. We're in the ACC in all sports except two. We have a deal in place and an agreement with the ACC when it comes to football. That's a fact, and then the other sport, hockey, is played in the Big Ten. Those are the facts. Everything else, we have no clue.
And we got to keep in mind too that all the teams that we know for sure are moving: Texas, Oklahoma to the SEC, UCLA, USC to the Big Ten.
And then those move Houston and Cincinnati to the Big 12, and then a couple others that.
Yeah, well, the new Big 12 schools, they're coming in for next season in 2023.
Right. So those are all actual schools that are moving. Nobody else currently is moving.
No,
not us, not Oregon, not Washington, not anybody. We're all discussion. There's discussions being created, in place, but nothing is actually set in stone.
And what I was going to finish saying is, with the exception of those 4 new teams to the Big 12, everything else doesn't happen for another couple of years yet.
Right.
So this stuff, whatever end up does happening, it's not going to happen overnight.
Well, and
that's my point.
Fall through. Okay, I mean, until there is a legal document that is written out and signed by a judge and signed by both sides, things can fall through. I mean, we're seeing UCLA and USC to the Big Ten. Okay, nothing has officially been official yet. Everything is being pushed. They have filed their paperwork. Now they're taking the necessary steps. We're not there yet. Same with the Big Ten or the Big 12 and Texas and Oklahoma. They haven't officially left yet. They're still members of the Big 12. So it's going to get interesting. It's going to get super, super interesting. We will see what happens with all this.
You beat me to the punch on that, Ben, because my next comment was going to be, regardless of what ends up happening, whether we stay independent, whether we join a conference, which teams go to what conference in the end, this is going to be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, and to add to your point, at the end of the day, all I care about is who's on the schedule. Who's on the schedule? Who's in the way? What do we have to do to get to that national championship? That's what I care about. And if it is that we're in the Big Ten and we have to win the Big Ten championship to get that bid to get into the playoffs to win the national championship, then that's what we got to do.
Yeah. Now, of course, just to add another opinion from someone who's not here and will never be on the show, I was talking to a couple of my brothers about this, and as Notre Dame fans, they are all for the Irish joining the conference, whether it's the Big Ten or the ACC or whoever else is left standing. But I'm kind of the same way. I'm like I said at the start of the show, I'm not going to be out there demanding. I'm not going to be demanding that Notre Dame joins a conference. But if we do end up joining the conference, I'm not going to be disappointed either. I want us to continue to play quality football, play a quality schedule, and get over that hump to win major bowl games and win national championships.
Yep. Yeah.
And
the goal stays the same. It doesn't matter if it's Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC, Sun Belt, whoever, goal stays the same. So
yes,
that's all I care about. And it's not just Notre Dame football. It's basketball, baseball, hockey, you name it. Goal stays the same. So,
and one quick note with the conferences before I somewhat switch to something else. I want to get your opinion on this. And let's just hypothetically say that's how it turns out. There's only going to be 3 major conferences left when this is all said and done. Or 4, whatever happens. I don't know how you feel about this, but I really think when it comes to the number of teams and geography, I know overall geography doesn't mean squat anymore, and technically neither do numbers. But I think you kind of have to. Some of these conferences, they really should start considering rebranding so it's kind of more fitting. I mean, the only one that really doesn't have to is the SEC, because aside from Missouri, which is the only school that doesn't make sense geographically, because the SEC only wanted them for the Kansas City TV market, but virtually everything in that conference makes sense geographically and so on. The Big Ten, though, makes no sense geography wise or number wise. So, and let's say, I'm just going to go with my opinion. Let's say the ACC becomes that third conference at 6 around. Yeah, I would think that it would be those two that really need to consider some kind of rebranding that sticks to their traditional names, but takes account for geography and the numbers of teams in those conferences. Like for example, I thought that if the ACC, rises from the ashes and survives, and they get a bunch of teams from the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and so on, I thought a good name for that conference could be the APC, Atlantic Pacific Conference. Maybe the Big 10, you could just call it the Big. I don't know. But
they technically currently are that now.
But they still get called they're still called the Big 10. But yes, no, that is their logo. It just says Big, the Big. But I'm saying maybe you make that your official name, the Big. And I'm sure, that's just one idea. I'm sure there's some other good ideas out there too. But stuff like this, you really should consider rebranding. What do you think?
I don't know. It really, I think the two conferences that I really like name wise is the Mountain West and Conference USA. Those are the two that I like. Well, and I guess the MAC, because Middle America, and I like those names because they fit, what they have going on. Conference USA is the most clever because clearly everybody is all across the country and it's USA. Yes. So, but
the American is pretty good,
and I like the Mountain West just because of the logo and, the concept. But
yeah, it's pretty cool. I agree.
And I have a soft spot for Utah State. Don't hate. But anyway, going back to business. Yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on who's where and all that. Obviously, the Big Ten's, like you said, is going to have to rebrand because, now you got teams from the other side of the country. At least everybody was pretty much touching when it came to geography, but now, that's out the window. So, and technically, if you want to get really technical, everybody will still touch in the SEC with Texas and Oklahoma joining. So,
yeah,
because Texas touches Oklahoma and then Texas touches Louisiana and, on and on and on and on. So, right. Anyway, I'll let you all figure out the geography on that one. But
well, I guess with the Big Ten up until USC and UCLA, Penn State was actually that geographical bridge between from Maryland and Rutgers.
Yeah.
So
Maryland and New Jersey. Yeah.
Holy crap! I actually paid attention to some geography lessons in grade school.
Yeah. I like to think that sports is more of the reason why I know where everything is. So
I don't think you're alone in that, dude.
Stadiums and stuff. I don't think my geography teacher would be too happy hearing me say that, but I think that's the truth right there.
Well, screw him. He knows it's true.
So anyway,
but I brought up Penn State for a reason, Ben, in that little geography lesson that we just had. So first off, I'm not going to name names, and you know me, I'm the aggressive one here. I would love to name names, but I'm not going to. But I don't know if you saw this or not, but about a little over a week ago, and I just saw this clip last night, actually, somebody from our community was on someone else's show. I don't want to give out all the details. I'm not about slandering or any of that stuff, but I heard one of the dumbest things that I've ever heard in my life when it comes to Notre Dame. So this person was on a show, and they were saying that, they were discussing all the conference realignment stuff. And this person was saying that he would hate it because if Notre Dame ended up joining a conference, they would lose their brand and just become another regional school that nobody would really care about. Not exactly those exact words, but he did say. But his example was, well, look at Penn State. They were a national powerhouse. They were independent. They joined the Big Ten, and they become just some local team in the state of Pennsylvania that really hasn't done much of anything. And well, Penn State has had some good years, but I still think that was one of the most asinine comments I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to say that Penn State hasn't done anything. I mean, the mere fact that they have a 110,000 seat stadium and they fill it pretty much every week says that they're doing something. You know, I mean, I will give it to you that there's not been a national title for a few years, but I mean, Penn State's been in the thick of things for a number of years, and even in the down year of that whole catastrophe that was the Sandusky situation, I mean, they were still a decent program. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all, because let me just say this:
there's no overshadowed. I will agree with you there. I think they're overshadowed by Ohio State and Michigan trading blows most years, but I mean, Penn State's always been right there. So
the bottom line is this: that was one of the dumbest and most asinine comments that I'd ever heard in my life. Do you really think, if we join a conference, whether it's the Big Ten, the ACC, whichever one's left standing, if we join a conference, do you really think we're going to lose our brand?
Well, and
our brand's going to lose strength and lose some power in its name, and that we just fade in? No.
Well, and do you?
I get people were worried about that.
Here's the thing: there's a reason that we have 3 conferences currently trying to get us to come to them. I mean, look at for 2 seconds. Like, currently, Notre Dame has the ACC, the SEC, and the Big Ten all offering them deals to come to their conference. Okay, if you were going to lose your brand and become just one of the bottom feeders of that conference, because that's pretty much what losing your brand would be.
Yeah.
Do you honestly think that 3 of the most well-known conferences in not only college football, but the college sports world in general would be wanting you to join their conference?
No, they're not going to be wanting.
You're right. That is the most asinine and, in my opinion, ignorant, because that's a very uneducated comment to say. I'm sorry. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah. And then to defend Penn State here, really, you're going to say Penn State has lost, a lot of value in their brand just because they joined the Big Ten? No, they haven't.
If anything, they increased their brand.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay, yes, when they were independent, but there were a lot of schools who were independent back in the day. In the day. We had a ton of independent schools. There was us. Miami was an independent. Florida State was an independent. Yes, Penn State was an independent. There were a lot of big name schools who were independents, like into the 80s. But to say that Penn State used to be a national powerhouse and that they're really not anymore, that's a load of crap, dude. Load of crap. And to say that could possibly happen to us if we joined a conference, well, all I can say is this: the 2020 COVID year, the ACC got more revenue with us in that 1 year. So yeah, I don't think we would lose our brand or lose like face or whatever term you want to use.
Nope.
Our brand is not going to suffer. People are still going to know who Notre Dame is, and all these top prospects are still going to want to come and play for us if they're recruited properly. Which, adding on to that real quick, Marcus Freeman continues to roll in that department. But just, yeah, a really stupid, asinine, and ignorant statement to say about 2 schools in that situation. But, and like I said, I'd love to give names, but you know, I got to learn to behave myself. But that's what I tried to say, a couple weeks ago, and I don't know what happened to this, but on Twitter, I think this comment that, full disclosure, I left it. I think somebody reported it and it got taken down or something, but this goes back to all this talk of people in our fan base who call themselves realists. That is one example. What we were just talking about is a problem in the Notre Dame fan base. There is this toxic element in our fan base that has to go away, that has to change. And basically what I'm saying when I talk about realists, this is what I'm talking about. And I hope all you Notre Dame fans out there pay attention to this. When I'm talking about realist, basically, if Ohio State, the opening game against Ohio State, if you are already chalking that game up as a loss, then get out of the fan base. That's the kind of realist crap that we don't need. It's toxic, it's cancerous, and it needs to be gotten rid of in our fan base. But anyway, I'm rambling. I don't want to get on that too much, but I made my point.
Yep. So only time will tell with all this, dude. I mean, this is going to be a wild ride, a absolute wild ride.
Yes.
And whatever people think, drop your comments below, because I would be very interested to see what people think about this whole situation, A, and B, where do you think Notre Dame's going to end up? Because I do think at the end of the day, Notre Dame ends up somewhere. I really do. I think this is unfortunately an inevitable situation that, it is coming. So,
well, and as it was pointed out before, I mean, and we've all seen this with all the renegotiations coming up with TV contracts and merchandise and all that stuff, that plays a role in this too. And if Notre Dame gets an offer from said conference, whichever one that happens to be of the conferences that are still standing at the end, you might want to consider it, because if you're able to have all these different things, like your home game still on NBC, making more money from NBC from what your current deal is, make the money from the TV deal with that conference that you join, and so on and so forth, you might want to consider that. Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that we should give up our independence, but again, if we joined a conference, I would not be unhappy. I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ben, one final note, and I mentioned this earlier with Marcus Freeman on the recruiting trail. He has gotten us back to the number one class in the 2023 class. We just had another wide receiver recruit. What was his name? Jaden Greathouse. It's an awesome name.
Yes,
Jaden Greathouse.
Can you imagine saying that? Jaden Greathouse to the house.
Oh man.
Think about that for a
second. but yeah, I mean, we've had quite a haul in these past couple weeks. I mean, Jaden Greathouse, Rico Flores, a high quality top wide receiver out of the state of California, committed to us. And then in addition to that, we had CJ Carr, which we talked about already, but now we could end up with a quarterback for the 2023 class as well. That Austin Novosad from down in Texas. Mm-hmm. He's currently a Baylor commitment at the moment, or a Baylor commit, but he actually reached out to us at Notre Dame and wanted Marcus Freeman to take a look at him. And I believe Marcus Freeman has officially given him an offer. So we'll see what happens with that. Because I know everybody's all upset about, Dante Moore going to Oregon and all that. But you knew that once Carr signed, it was going to be tough to get both of them. Even I knew
that. It would be one or the other in that situation.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, it's exciting. It's absolutely exciting. And what's nice is, people were a little worried about last month's time that we weren't landing a lot of offensive talent. We hadn't really gotten the wide receivers yet. We hadn't really gotten at Notre Dame the quarterbacks and stuff. We were getting a lot of defensive guys, and Freeman's a defensive guy, so people were excited but nervous that, once again, that weakest link that has been Notre Dame's Achilles heel in the last few years is the offense is good, but not at that elite level, that you need to get over that hump. And I think now Freeman's starting to pull in that talent, and that doesn't need to be a complaint anymore, obviously. So That's exciting, and I can't wait. I can't wait. But you got to put it on the field, because just because you got 5 stars or just because you got 4 stars next to your name doesn't mean and doesn't equate to I'm going to be a star at Notre Dame and I'm going to be a college football star.
You have to produce. You have to produce what those stars represent.
So, I think it's exciting and it's cool to have a top 5 class that Notre Dame currently is in the top 5, but at the end of the day, it's how do you transition to the college game and how do you make yourself better and how do you show that in a big game situation? That's the bottom line. So Anyway, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff to watch on the horizon. We got the season itself coming up for 2022. The talk for conference realignment certainly isn't going to slow down, and neither will recruiting. So a lot of fun stuff going on. It's leaving, I'm sure, all of us on the edge of our seats, and who knows what's going to happen with all this when it's all said and done, but it's going to be a fun ride to find out. So on that note, Ben, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I got nothing.
All right. So with that said, I am ND Sean 45.
I'm Irish Benjamin 57.
And as we always say, God bless, good night, and go Irish.
Go Irish.